I'll tell you about the revenue streams from SOCAN and how you make money from SOCAN. There's three basic revenue streams from SOCAN, 3 ways to get paid. Radio, film and television, and live performance, live shows. Radio in Canada, and so we'll just deal with Canada. Internationally, it's the same, and I talked about that they operate a little differently, so depending on what they do in that particular country, the revenue streams are generally the same. That's going to be a little different how they actually license it and how they pay. But for Canada, 3 types of radio stations. There's CBC, there's small market commercial radio, college radio, community radio, and then there's major market commercial radio in Canada. CBC radio is broken down into 3 categories. You have CBC national shows, you have CBC regional shows, and you have CBC local content shows. CBC national and CBC regional are 100% census, which means we monitor and work with CBC and we get everything that's played on national and regional radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So anything that's played on CBC radio gets reported to us and we pay the songwriters. Each spin on CBC national and regional pays about $26. So $26 is then paid to the songwriters of the songs based on how it's registered with SOCAN. So if it's just me and it's my song, and I'm the sole songwriter, $26 gets paid to me. If you and I co-wrote a song and it's 50-50, then we just split that evenly, right? So the only thing you need to do with SOCAN is to receive those royalties is make sure you're a member, make sure your catalog, the songs are registered, and that money should flow through no problem. Nothing else you need to do. For CBC local content shows, as well as college radio, community radio, and small market commercial radio. So small market commercial radio, say in Nova Scotia, would be a radio station in Truro, Nova Scotia, or a radio station in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia. Smaller markets that are commercial radio where they're selling advertising, but in a smaller market. They're all done on a sample basis. So certain times per year, we'll contact the radio station and say, you need to report to us what you're playing on the radio station for this set period of time. So depending on the station, it could be 2 days, it could be 5 days, it could be 8 days. So they then report to us everything that's played 24 hours a day for that suggested period. They report that to us, and then we do the same thing as we do for CBC. We match that up to everybody that's registered with us, and then we pay all the writers for that. So for those, it's about almost $6 per spin now for all of those. So if you're picked up on the sample, then you're paid. If you happen to not be picked up on the sample, then you're not paid. So for sampling, January 1st through 3rd, and you weren't played January 1st through 3rd, but you're played for every other day the rest of the month, then you're out of luck. You didn't get picked up. But if you're played consistently over a set period of time, we're going to pick you up and you're going to get paid for that. So depending on the type of station, we monitor, say, community radio and college radio a little bit less than we monitor small market commercial radio or CBC, for example. So again, all you need to do is make sure your songs are registered with SOCAN, and that money should flow through no problem. Third type of radio station in Canada is major market commercial radio. So major markets in Atlantic Canada would be St. John's, would be Halifax, Moncton, St. John, Fredericton. So basically any commercial radio station in that market, so you can pick any of the stations here in St. John's, they're all now monitored by a third party on our behalf. So they're monitored by an organization called BDS Nielsen. Does anybody know about BDS? So, anybody know about the Nielsen company? Yeah. So Nielsen, they do sound scan for sales. They do BDS for radio airplay. They also monitor television. When they tell you that there were 48 million people watching the Super Bowl, that's from the Nielsen company. They can tell how many people are actually watching television shows and that sort of thing. So what they do in Canada for us and the United States is they monitor all of the major market commercial radio stations. So how they do that is through an encoding system that they've created called BDS. So what it is basically a digital fingerprint for each song on your record. So what you need to do now as a recording artist, or if you're working in a studio and you're creating recordings for people, it's something that you might want to know and you might want to, as a part of your business, to encode those recordings for those artists. So what you do is you send that to you to create an account with BDS. You can send it digitally, or you can send them physical product and mail them a CD. And what they'll do is they'll assign what's called a digital audio identification number for each track on the recording, or if you're doing singles, they'll do it that way for you as well. It's free, there's no cost to do it, but the only way that you're going to get paid for your music being played on commercial radio is if your songs are encoded by BDS. If they're played on commercial radio and they're not encoded, it doesn't get picked up on the monitoring system, and it won't be reported to SOCAN, and it won't be paid. So BDS is monitored for us. It's, I think, close to 300 radio stations in Canada, and there's about 3,000 radio stations being monitored by the United States.
How does that differ from the ISRC? That's for sales.
Yeah, completely different. The BDS encoding is unique and specific to radio airplay for tracking radio airplay for broadcasted radio. ISRC codes are for digital tracking for sales, telling you where it's being sold and that sort of thing. Okay. Right? ISRC codes in Canada are assigned by the AVLA. So in Canada, if you want to obtain ISRC codes, you do that directly through the AVLA. It's just a coding system, and you can do it after the fact. So the recording for the creation of ISRC codes is typically done during the recording process, right? The BDS encoding is always done after the fact. So once the recording has been completed, then you send it to BDS.
After the master is completed.
Exactly. Yeah, after the master's been completed. So you want to do, a full record. If you have a full record, if you're just releasing singles, you want to do that, and you want to do it. It doesn't cost anything, so it should be just on your checklist of things to do. So regardless of whether you're releasing it, on iTunes, or whether you're just putting it up on Bandcamp or whatever it happens to be, you can pull those songs anywhere. Anybody can play them, right? So just make sure that those songs are encoded, and you want to go back. If you haven't done, if you have records released already and you haven't done it, just go back and you can always do it retroactively. You won't get paid for anything that you missed, but you certainly should make sure that you do it retroactively.
I've noticed on I immediately went home and started uploading my songs or updating my file, and I noticed the BDS link is right there above your add songs on SOCAN.
Mm-hmm.
So you can click on that through the SOCAN website.
Yeah, through the SOCAN site for sure. Yeah.
I don't know if it's a link or if it's something that you guys help with, or if
No,
it just
it's a link. It'll go directly to.
Okay.
So what you'll do if you want to do them digitally, you'll create an account with BDS, and you'll just upload the files, MP3 or WAV files, and then they'll encode them for you. I assume send you an email back saying we've received them.
And so they don't deal with the quality of MP3. They just need the information of the song, more or less, to put the thumbprint.
They need the actual recording. Yeah, whether it's a full MP3, yeah, they need the recording. So whether it's an MP3 or whether it's a physical copy of the CD, you can mail it to them as well. They need that. They need the track. They'll embed it in that track.
But do they need? I guess do they need the master quality? Like, do they need the CD, or if you had like a really low bit MP3 of it, so that you can upload it super quick?
You want to send to them what you have that you would send to radio. So whatever version you have that you have on your website, if that's where it is, that's what you want to send. If you have the master for if you released a record or released a single on iTunes, that's what you want to send them. The best quality. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't want demos or anything like that.
No, I know that. I just mean for sending purposes and whatnot. Like, if you can send them a 4 meg file as opposed to an 8 or 9 meg file, you know what I mean? Like, it's.
Yeah, I mean, if it's the same track, then it doesn't make a difference. Right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Same track.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the BDS monitor stations are 100% census. Make sure it's encoded, and they're about $2 per spin for BDS monitor stations. So regardless of when it's played on commercial radio, whether it's a local show Sunday afternoon at 2, or whether it's the Led Zeppelin being played at Friday afternoon, you get paid the exact same. It's the data reported goes the same way. It's always encoded in BDS. So BDS as well also gets their data. Resound also gets their data from BDS. You guys talked about Resound and the performance, right?
Yeah, was it satellite radio?
No, Resound is another organization, and they pay for radio airplay. They pay to the owners of sound recordings and the people that are actually performing on the sound recording. So if you say you have a record that gets played on the radio here, there's 3 revenue streams for that recording. So it's a Slayer record. Songwriters get paid by SOCAN. Then there's the master owner, the owner of the recording gets paid, as well as the performers on the sound recording, so basically the band. So if you're a performer, and you're playing a studio musician, you're playing on all kinds of recordings, there's a revenue stream for you for that song being played on the radio. So they get their data from BDS as well for performance. So It's important for you as a songwriter to make sure all of your own songs are being encoded by BDS. And it's also important for you as a master owner, if you're a record company and you're releasing records. Also important for you if you're a studio musician and you're playing on multiple recordings, to make sure that the recordings that you're playing on are all encoded. So it's one of those checklists. Has anybody done any of that? Is anybody a studio musician? Anybody played on recordings and that kind of stuff? What I'll do, the organizations that I talk about, some of them you may know already. What I'll do is I'll send you, I'm going to put together, I'm going to do the same thing that I did for last night's session. I'm going to put together a list of the organizations that I'm talking about and links to them.
Okay.
And I'll send that to you guys, and then you guys can have it. So you don't have to worry about writing it down, right or wrong. You'll have some information. So, yeah. So any questions? Any questions about radio? So have them be a member, make sure the songs are registered, make sure the recordings are registered with BDS, and then everything should flow through. No problem. Second is film and television. Anybody interested in composing for film and TV? Might give it a shot a little bit. Yeah. So by far, just to let you know, our highest earning members are film and television composers. So it's if you can make a living in something that it's pretty good. So film and television, the royalty streams are two, right? So there's the one that I talked about earlier, the initial placement. So you have a song that's already been created. It gets placed in Grey's Anatomy or Brookie Blue. There's the upfront fee that's paid to you as a songwriter and to you as a master owner for having it placed there. So if the song gets placed, the synchronization license is for the song, the master license is for the actual recording. We sign a contract. I pay you $1,000 to have that placed in the film or television show. That's signed. Contract is signed in perpetuity, so it's signed forever. Multiple formats, multiple territories, so we never negotiate ever again. So once it's in that TV show, that contract is signed. There's no other transaction there for us. But on the back end, when it actually gets broadcast and when it gets played on television or when it's played in theaters, there's revenue from SOCAN that we pay the songwriters for that. So films and television, theaters, television performances are again 100% census. So we license theaters, we license CTV or CBC or Much Music or TSN or whatever it happens to be. So we license all of those cable stations and network stations. We get all the performance information from another organization. So we get all the shows that are played on every single station in Canada. And then what happens is we match that up to our cue sheets. So do you guys talk about cue sheets? What cue sheets are? No? So the most important thing for you as a composer for film and television is the cue sheet. The only way that you get paid on the back end is if SOCAN or a performing rights society where the show is being broadcast has the cue sheet. The cue sheet is what we match up to the production or to the performance information. The cue sheet outlines all of the music that's in that television program. So all the score, all the placements, all that stuff is all encompassed within that cue sheet. So how we pay you is by the information on the cue sheet. It's 100% census, so regardless of where it's played, you get paid for that. And it's paid by the second. So whether you have 1 minute or 30 seconds or 45 minutes of music within your film, you get paid. You get paid for all of those. So extremely important. So if you are doing contracts and you are starting to write for film or television, regardless of whether you get paid for it or not, so whether it's your buddy and you wanted to score his independent film to start out or whatever, and he didn't have a budget or she didn't have a budget for music, didn't matter if you got paid for that creation. On the back end, when that gets broadcast, you're always going to get paid for that performance. So there's never a cost for the producer to submit a cue sheet. There's never anything like that. So normally what I tell people to do when they're working as a composer is when you sign the contract to create the score or whatever it is for the film, make sure that you're able to have a copy of the complete cue sheet. Even if it says in the contract that they will submit the cue sheet to whoever, make sure that you get a copy. It doesn't always happen. We're always constantly chasing down producers for cue sheets. If we don't have the cue sheet, you're not going to get paid. So if we don't figure out that we don't have the cue sheet 3 years after the film was produced, a lot of times it's a bit more difficult to try to track down the producer and get all the music. If you did the 100% of the music yourself, then you could certainly complete the cue yourself because it would be all of your cues and all of your music. But very, very important. Because once it's out there, once the content is there, it could be the shittiest film you've ever done, but I mean, people are looking for so much content it can be played for the next 50 years, right? On CBC or something.
Is a cue sheet different than this than what you get on the set, like the sides and stuff for all the people, crew and stuff running it, or was that you're
The
talking
cue
about?
sheet is specific for the music, so the producer of the film or television show would have that completed. So
Okay.
yeah, it's different.
And it's like it says on the top cue sheet, more or less, and a,
Yep.
okay.
And we have them online. Once you're a SOCAN member, you have access to blank cue sheets. They're all available. They're all available online, and you can get those no problem. So. And there are calculators online. Once you're a SOCAN member, you can log in and say, you know, my film was played on CBC. I did 20 minutes of score. How much am I going to get paid for that? You can do all of that. So I just logged in. So this is, once you're a SOCAN member, this is what your account will look like. It'll have all the information here. You can register songs that way and stuff. So I'll just show you some of the values. So SOCAN performances and repertoire calculators, and it's audio visual. So what you can do here, it's strange looking this.
It is. It is.
So just say you did a score for a documentary on a show on CBC. Okay, so let's say it's an hour documentary, and you did, say, 20 minutes of background music. So there's three types of, four actually, don't worry about the logo, but types of music with film and television. You have the theme music, so the theme of the TV show or the opening of the film, that's the theme song for the film. Feature music and background music. So background music is only heard, the difference between background and feature music is one is only heard by the audience, and one is heard by the audience as well as the actors. So there's a scene where there's a band playing at a bar, or you're driving down the road and there's a song played on the radio or that kind of thing. That's paid at a different rate. So say you did background music, and it was on network television on CTV. So each time that's broadcast, it's paid $1,500.
Click on NTV for.
Just in Canada.
Is it there?
NTV?
Yeah, that's our local one.
No, it's not on there.
So it's not considered network,
Can
right?
you,
It's be considered cable.
oh. Okay, these are all the,
These are all the cable stations, right? So. NTV America. That's crazy.
It wouldn't be that one.
that,
It's not that one.
Not that one.
this is non-existent.
What does NTV stand for?
Newfoundland Television, isn't it?
CJCLC is the photo for it.
Steel Communications, maybe.
Is that,
Because I mean, this is the one that most of us will be clicking on if we're
Okay.
fortunate enough to get music on.
I bet it's on this list.
Like the local Rogers,
Like St.
like
John's.
out
Out
of
of
the
the
fog
fog.
thing.
Which one was it? CJ?
CJ1.
That's it.
Sorry.
How much?
34.
34.
See how different
So,
it is?
so that being said, so the same show.
Yeah.
So once we have the cue sheet, every time it's broadcast is played. So with the same show being broadcast on different cable stations, pays at different rates. So Rookie Blue would be the same, right? So Rookie Blue is shown on Global, it's shown on ABC in the United States, and then it's rebroadcast on, say, Showcase or one of those other stations. It's the same music, the same cue sheets, but the value of it played on Much Music or something is a lot less than it would be on ABC in the United States, right? But it's paid every single time, right? So because it's based on how much we actually receive in royalties from those particular stations. So NTV obviously pays a lot less than CTV National, right? And same as, because it's only basically shown in Newfoundland and then on some cable stations, right? So the market is obviously, the people that are watching it is significantly less than.
It is on satellite too, so it's funny that.
Yeah, and it would be valued in there, right?
It's still valued at like a lower market.
But it's still based on the revenue that we generate from them, right? So advertising is what, it's based on, they pay the licenses for television stations based on advertising revenue. So NTV obviously charges much less to advertise on NTV than you do on a national CBC show or CTV show, right? So, but anyways, you can kind of see the value of score. You can see, so So and that would be similar to anywhere around the world, right? So when that show is broadcast on ABC in the U.S., that pays significantly more than it would if it was played on a small little the Space Channel in the United States or something like that, right? Because the market share is less, but the value is still there's still money there. So yeah, so you can play around with that and you can see the value. So guys that are writing score for significant shows are make seven figures, right? Yeah, a really good living. So.
And you just have to do it once, and then every time it's repeated, it's adds up.
So if you did a documentary or a film, for example, right? It's going to be played, once or twice a year or whatever, right? On the same show or on the same station. But if you're composing the score for like Hawaii FiveO, right? It's broadcast once a week. Also goes into reruns, sold around the world, right?
Yeah.
So.
And you said the guy who does Hawaii FiveO is from where?
Thanks for looking at.
What?
Is that right?
The whole like.
I didn't know that. Who is it?
Lives in Los Angeles now.
And actually, it's weird. The oldest living person in the world now is a Newfoundlander who lives in LA.
Really?
So that's the film and television. So cue sheets are really important, and also if you are composing for film and television, you want to make sure that you're current and up to date with your statements, and you're current and up to date with where the films and where the TV shows that you're composing for are being sold, right? So really important because that's how you're earning your money, right? You're earning your money from payments from that music being broadcast, right? So if you know that if you're on top of that show being sold to multiple countries around the world, you want to make sure that we know about it. You want to make sure that we have the correct titles for it. Sometimes in foreign territories, the titles have to change for the TV show or the film for a variety of reasons, whether it's just a translation issue or whether they had to change the title for other reasons. We have to know that. So and we'll work with the foreign society. So if you know that your film has been sold to Japan, it's got sold to China, it got sold to Greece, and got sold to Lithuania, you want to make sure that we work with those societies to make sure we have the cue sheets and make sure that money flows through. So, and that's the benefit of being with society, right? Is that our international departments can work with each other and make sure that money flows through from international groups. So any questions on film and TV and where the royalties come from and how it works? No?